أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. Let's start Surah Al-Hijr, verse number 23. وَإِنَّا لَنَحْنُ نُحْيِي وَيُمِيتُ وَنَحْنُ الْوَارِثُونَ. We give life and death, and we shall inherit all. Inherit all. How is God going to inherit all? This means that on the day of judgment, everything in this world that as we see it today will be destroyed. And the heir, an heir is one who remains after somebody to whom he is the heir. And the only one who will survive after everyone else will be God. So he is going to be the heir. So here it says, وَنَحْنُ الْوَارِثُونَ. We will be the waris or the heir. We shall inherit all. And this is a kind of a mention of God's power, that only His power will remain after this world has been destroyed. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْنَا الْمُسْتَقْدِمِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْنَا الْمُسْتَأْخِرِينَ. We know those who have passed away and those who have yet to come. That means all the people will be raised from the dead and judged by God, who is the reviver of the dead. And this is a kind of a mention of His knowledge that He is omniscient. So He is fully aware of all those countless creatures who lived in the past, as well as all those who will come in the future. It can also mean that God knows all those who are running at His call, at His beck and call, and those who drag their feet in coming to the right path. وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ إِنَّهُ حَكِيمٌ عَلِيمٌ. Indeed, your Lord will gather them all together. Indeed, He is the wise, the all-knowing. So He will gather everyone together on the day of judgment. And when one believes in God and His omniscience and His omnipotence, omniscience is His being, He's knowing everything. And omnipotence is He's all-powerful. And wisdom, then one cannot deny the day of judgment. Because if He is just and He knows everything that is going on in this world, then He will have to reward those who suffered in this world because of being on the right path, and also punish those who did not come to the right path, and also some who were harming other people. So they also have to be judged. So now wisdom demands that everyone should be raised again and judged and be given either reward or punishment. And it is not beyond God's power to gather all the parts and put them together. People who did not want to believe kept on saying, how can all the parts of our body be brought together? And especially these days when sometimes people also die in airline crashes and one doesn't know, one cannot collect their parts. So they say, how can all these things come together? And God says that we know everything. We know not just about the creatures, but we also know about each and every atom of their existence and where it is lying. And everything will come together on that day. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَائٍ مَسْنُونٍ. We created mankind from bringing clay, which was first wet and putrid. Now we know that it is said that human beings have been created out of clay. And at different places in the Quran, a different word is used for that clay, because if you have ever been to a potter's workshop, you will find that the clay passes through different stages. And in these stages, it has a different look and a different kind of malleability and different qualities. And according to that, they have been named here in the Quran. If you like, I can give you a detailed account of what are the words being used in the Quran for clay and what are the qualities. Also, I would like to say that, when we are told we are made of clay and we look at ourselves and we say, how can they say that we are made of clay? This is flesh and bone. But the thing is that, all right, we believe because we believe in God and the Quran, and we say that, yes, God has told us we're made of clay. But also when you think about all the things that we eat either the vegetation that has been grown from the earth, and that vegetation is absorbing its nutrients from the earth. So the essential parts of the earth are coming into that vegetable or fruit or whatever you're eating. And if we are eating meat, then that animal is also eating the vegetation, which has absorbed those nutrients from the clay. So these are the essential elements of clay, which we keep absorbing throughout our life. So the one word which has been used in this very verse that we are reading, this is verse number 26, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَائٍ مَسْنُونٍ. Salsalin and Hamayim. Now, salsal means ringing clay. And some commentators have, described this as the clear speech that human beings have. That is, the ringing clay is if you take a piece of pottery, especially a broken piece like a shard, and you hit it against something, then it produces a ringing sound. So some commentators think that this refers to the human being who has a clear speech. Then Hamaun means turned black due to being soaked. Now, as I said, if you go to a potter's workshop, you find that if it's a big potter, then he has these big ponds full of clay, which is also full of water. And he has some calculation of how long he's going to keep it in that water, soaked in the water. And as days go by, this clay turns black. The longer it is soaked, the darker it becomes. And this is known as Hamaun. Then Masnoon is putrid and decaying. So also this, when you see this, you find that it looks as if it is putrid, it is decayed. Then Turab is another word. This is the clay which is before it has been soaked in water. It's known as Turab. Then Teen, after being soaked, is also called mire. Fakhar is when it is baked in the fire. So fakhar is after it has been baked, the clay has been baked in the fire, then it becomes hard and it retains its shape. In some countries, in some villages, people use baked clay for constructing their houses, and they can withstand the effects of the weather like rain, etc. But in some places, they don't have these facilities, so they make their bricks out of, without baking them. So these are easily washed out by the rains and the floods. So there are about maybe 6 forms that have been named in the Quran, different forms of clay. Now the next verse is number 27. وَالْجَانَّ خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ مِنْ نَارِ السَّمُومِ. And Jan we created before this from fire without smoke. Who is Jan? Jan is supposed to be the forefather of the jinns. Just as Adam is the forefather, is the first father of the human beings, so also Jan is supposed to be the father of the jinns. And here it is said, and Jan we created before this, like here mention is being made in verse number 25 and 26 about the creation of Adam, and then it says, before this we created Jan from fire without smoke. So according to Hazrat Ibn Abbas, Nar as-Samum is the term used in Arabic. This means an intense fire with a great deal of heat but no smoke at all. This is like the essence of fire. So Jan is the father of all jinns, just as Adam is the father of human beings, and the material used in the creation of humans was clay, while that used in the creation of jinns was fire. Nar as-Samum has been translated as fire without smoke, or the essence of fire. So this determines the nature. This is what I was coming to. This determines the nature of these creatures. Human beings, as seen in Adam's nature, acquired humility, like that of the earth, a coolness of temperament, and the ability to repent. And since the jinns were created out of fire, they had a fiery temperament and an insatiable desire to influence and consume everything within reach. If a fire, gets lighted somewhere, maybe in a forest, then it becomes so difficult to put it out because it spreads with, intense speed. And similarly, if a house catches fire, then it's very difficult to keep things under control. Now the jinns are, in many ways, they are like the human beings, but they are also like the air or the wind. And also the shayateen, the leader of the shayateen, in fact the evil leader of the shayateen, his name is Iblis. And he is the sort of the teacher of the jinns, and he has a lot of pride as well. And he does not want to repent or ask for forgiveness. The word Iblis is also supposed to mean someone who has lost hope. And losing hope in the mercy of God is supposed to be a weakness in one's faith. In fact, Hazrat Ibrahim a.s. has said that this is like doing kufr. If you do not have faith in the mercy of God, then you are doing kufr. We are now on verse number 28. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي خَالِقٌ بَشَرًا مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَائٍ مَسْنُونٍ. And recall when your Lord said to the angels, I am about to create a mortal from wringing clay, which was first wet and putrid. So 3 of the words that we just discussed of the description of clay have been used here. It's Salsalim, no, 2 of them have been used. Salsalim and Hamaim Masnoon, wet and putrid, and also wringing. So these are the different stages of the clay. Now in here, we are on verse 28, and from verse 24 to 28, the fall of Iblis from heaven and the grace of God is being recounted. And this is comparable to Surah Sad, which is the 38th Surah in the Quran, verses 71 to 85. And mostly, there is a conversation, this is a conversation between God and Iblis. And the fall of Adam is not mentioned here, it is mentioned in some other places. Other accounts throughout the Quran tell the story of Iblis with the backdrop of the creation and temptation and banishment of Adam from Jannah. In 230, that is Surah 2, that is Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 30, God informs the angels that He's going to place a vicegerent on earth. A vicegerent in Arabic is the word Khalifa. A Khalifa is somebody who deputizes for somebody but who has no powers of his own to make too many decisions. He might be able to make a few decisions, but the Khalifa is mostly following the orders of the one who is ordering him. So God was going to appoint a Khalifa on earth. That means God wanted certain things to be carried out in this world, and He had given human beings enough mental faculties, imagination, potential for spirituality, and all these things that He could act as God's deputy on earth. فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. So God is now talking to the angels. When I have put finishing touches and I have blown my spirit into it, spirit into whom? Into Adam. You must fall down prostrate before it. In another place in the Quran, God says to Iblis or Shaitan, Satan, what kept you from prostrating to the one that I created with both my hands? Now, there are whole books written on just this, both my hands, because both my hands can mean a lot of things. But a very obvious kind of meaning is that human beings were given the potential for being good or being evil. Since they had been given the choice. And when they have been given the choice and they choose to be on the right path, then they have the potential to rise to the highest levels of spirituality, so high that even the angels who are supposed to be innocent, who never do anything wrong, and who are always in touch with God, these angels have now to bow to Adam, to prostrate to Adam, to do the sajda. And to express sajda is an expression of humility. And sajda, there is some discussion about this among scholars, but sajda is mostly, it is said, is meant for God. Because in this, human beings, if you compare human beings with other creatures, you find that they are supposed to be a kind of a proud, they're proud creatures. They have their head up when they're walking, their nose in the air. But now, when in front of God, they have to express their humility. They put their forehead on the ground, then they rub their nose on the ground, and this is the expression of extreme humility with regard to God. And this same thing, prostration or sajda, is being asked of the angels to perform to human beings or to Adam in this instance. Now here it is said, when I put finishing touches and I have blown my spirit into it. Now God is going to blow His spirit into Adam. Now according to some commentators, this refers to the endowing of human beings with life and a soul. Since they have a soul, they can rise to these spiritual heights. The spirit or the soul has been described as a refined essence, because it is not tangible, and which has the ability to absorb the light of the merciful, and hence it has been referred to by God as my spirit. Now, human beings have the ability to acquire a very small part of the attributes of God, including knowledge and free will. We were talking about, you'll remember how much detail we had gone into when we discussed the names, the beautiful names of God. And the names of God are His attributes. So, according to Imam Ghazali, human beings can absorb or take their share a little bit, as much as possible, from the attributes of God. For example, he gives the example that God is Rahman, he's merciful, he's most merciful, and human beings can also become merciful by being merciful to his creatures in this world. So the human beings have the ability to acquire a very small part of the attributes of God, including knowledge. Human beings have also been given the ability, the mind to acquire knowledge, and also they have been given a free will. Who are the other creatures who have been given a free will? The jinns are the other creatures who have been given a free will. They can also be good or bad. They can also follow any of these religions that we see in the world today. A jinn can be a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or a Buddhist or a Sikh, or a Hindu. A jinn can acquire any of these spiritual faiths. Now here it is said that since God was saying that I will blow my spirit into him, into Adam, therefore because of God's spirit, man's or human being's stature became very high. And this is why the angels were asked to bow to Adam. Verse number 30. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى أَنْ يَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ. All the angels fell in prostration except Iblis. He refused to be of those who prostrate. So when this order was given to the angels, we know that the angels never question God's orders and they obey at once. So they all fell into prostration at once. But who did not obey this order? That was Iblis. Now the question arises, we have just been saying that he was a jinn. And then we say that the angels fell and he didn't fall in prostration. So the reason is that Iblis had been so involved, engrossed throughout his life in worship and prayer that his rank had risen to the rank of the angels, and he was allowed to keep company with the angels. But because of this, so if one acquires a spiritual status or if one acquires knowledge or any of the things that God has blessed us with, then the thing to remember is not to be proud, to remember that these are gifts of God, these are blessings and favors of God, and to be grateful for them. This was the cause of Iblis's fall, of Satan's fall, because he became proud that he had worshipped God so much that now he had been raised to the company of the angels, and therefore he refused to be of those who prostrate. He said, no, I cannot prostrate to this creature that you have made out of clay. And he uses all the derogatory terms for clay, which he thinks that, it's not a very superior creature made out of such clay. قَالَ يَا إِبْلِيسُ مَا لَكَ أَلَّا تَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ. So God said, yes, I'd also like to tell you that the proper name of this shaitan is Iblis. And the generic name is shaitan because we also come across the word shayateen in the Quran, which is a plural of shaitan, and that means all those who are following shaitan, they are the shayateen. So this is a generic name. They had been we just talked about his being in the company of angels, and he looked down on the outward appearance of man. He could not see man's potential for spirituality, his potential for knowledge, and the fact that God had created everything for human beings. So he expressed his attribute of pride, which of course is greatly disliked by God. And by refusing to obey God, he became a disbeliever. One can say that he became a kafir, because belief in God is what makes one a believer. Now we also find, we have read this earlier in Surah Al-Araf, that Adam alayhi salam, here God is creating Adam, one creature, one man, and he says, I'm going to appoint a vicegerent on earth. But Adam is a representative of all of humanity. That means all human beings are khalifas of God. That means we are all supposed to do what God wants us to do in this world. According to some commentators, before falling from heaven, human beings were at a higher station than the angels. But I somehow don't agree with this. I think that human beings have been given the potential to develop themselves spiritually, to such a high station that even angels have to bow to them. Another thing is, if you have ever noticed that a very young boy who doesn't have, maybe he's just maybe 10 or 12 years old and he doesn't have that much physical strength, but he can control a huge animal like a camel or an elephant. If he has learned the right things to say to the camel, they have been taught to obey, then that little boy can control the camel. So these are all the potentials that have been given to human beings. Verse number 33. قَالَ يَا إِبْلِيسُ مَا لَكَ أَلَّا تَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ قَالَ لم أكن لأسجد لبشر خلقته من صلصال من حمأ مسنون. So God said, "O Iblis, why is it that you were not with those who prostrated?" And he replied, "I did not want to prostrate to a mortal whom you created from wringing clay, which was wet and putrid." So he's not afraid of just saying whatever he comes to his mind, and because of his pride. So this was actually false pride. And he thought that he had been made from he had a superior origin, or he was made from superior material. And he says that you created me from fire and him from Maya. I'd like to read this out to you. In Surah Ep.90, it is said, verse number 4, it is said, "We have created the human being in the best of form." So this conveys to us the idea that God's favorite creation, out of all his millions of creatures that he's created, his favorite creation is man, as human beings. And also that in so many places in the Quran, I'll point it out again when we come to it, it is said that we have, given the sun and the moon and the waters and the rain and the clouds and all these things which we really could not have controlled, but God has given them in our control or for our use. Musakhar is the word, that these things have been created for the use of human beings. That means this whole world and everything in it was created for human beings. Now, what about the jinn? We say that they were also given a choice. They can also be good and bad. They can also go to heaven or hell. But how come they are not at par with human beings? This is because, if you notice, the jinns are following the prophets of the human beings, the human prophets. The jinns don't have any prophets of their own. And this in itself shows that man has a superior spiritual position. The spirituality required of a prophet has been given only to human beings. قَالَ فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا فَإِنَّكَ رَجِيمٌ. God said, "Get out of here, you are now condemned." So, of course, God was angry with him and he became an outcast and he was banished from heaven. So all this while, this Iblis as well as the creation of Adam was being done in heaven. And there is a Hadith Qudsi in this connection, which I'd like to read out. Hadith Qudsi, is a Hadith which God says about something that he speaks about himself. So he says, "Pride is my cloak and greatness my garment. Whoever competes with me for either of them, I shall cast him into the fire." So this is why we always say that pride hath a fall. So anyone who is going to be proud in this world will always fall like Iblis, because God does not like anyone to be proud. وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكَ اللَّعْنَةَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الدِّينِ. You will be removed from God's grace till the day of judgment. So he, of course, even in this world, he will be banished and he'll be an outcast and he will be without God's grace, and which I think is one of the greatest punishments that can come to a creature, that God removes him from his grace. And after that, of course, he will have to account for all the millions and millions of sins and, wrong things that he had committed, and also encouraged other people to commit. قَالَ رَبِّي فَانْزِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. He said, "Oh my Lord, give me respite until the day when the dead are resurrected." So he's now bargaining with God. He says, "Give me some time. Give me a time limit and he also believes in the day of judgment. He knows that everyone is going to be punished for their wrong deeds, but still he says, "Give me respite until the last day when the dead are resurrected." Again, we've said this earlier, but we can repeat this fact that his pride prevents him from asking pardon. But Adam, being of clay, is humble and at once asks for forgiveness. You'll find this in Surah Al-Araf, verse number 23. They both said, who are both Adam and his wife Eve or baby Hawa. And they said at first, of course, it took them a long time to find the words with which to ask for pardon, because that was the first time any creature was asking for pardon. The angels were there who had never committed anything wrong, so they did not need to ask for pardon. So they both said, "O our Lord, we have greatly wronged ourselves, and if you do not forgive us and have mercy on us, we will become of the losers." So that means they learned from their mistake. This is another ability of human beings. If they have enough, foresight, etc., then if they make a mistake, they say, "This was a good lesson for me." And then they try to keep away from that particular thing which they had committed, which was harmful for them. I think I'd like to read out Hazrat Adam's prayer of forgiveness, asking for forgiveness. This is Surah Al-Araf and verse number 23. قال ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. They both said, "O our Lord, we have greatly wronged ourselves, and if you do not forgive us and have mercy on us, we will become of the losers." So they want to come into the good books of God once again. And this disobedience also taught them the difference between right and wrong. And as we said, they learned from their mistake. But what does Iblis say? What does Satan say? He says, "Give me some time to do all the evil things that I want to do until the last day when the dead are resurrected." Qala فَإِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنْزَرِينَ. God replied, "You are among the reprieved until a predestined time." So the time has been ila yawmil waqtil ma'lum. The time has been predetermined or predestined, but this is known. Ma'lum is only to God. Only God knows when this day will be set up. And in fact, people used to ask the Prophet, and the non-believers, the disbelievers, also used to defy the Prophet, and they used to say, bring upon us the day that you talk about. Mata hazal vado in kuntum sadiqeen. That is, when will your promise be fulfilled if you are truthful? And what was the promise? That if you do not obey God, if you do not believe in Him, then you will be punished eternally. So this predestined time is known only to God. And when people asked, even the Prophet, he used to say, "This is known only to my Lord." قَالَ رَبِّ بِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي لَأُزَيِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. "O my Lord," said Iblis, "since you have misguided me, I will make the world attractive for people and will misguide them all." So now you see he's using all these very rebellious kind of words, and he says that Bima aghwaytani, that means since you have misguided me. And he's not saying that I'm sorry, I misunderstood, I made a wrong decision. He says, you misguided me. I will make the world attractive for people and will misguide them all. So he took no responsibility for his behavior, and he takes the path of kind of a personal vendetta. He's going to take revenge for what has happened to him from all the human beings, because they are all children of Adam. So in a way, the word Iblis, we said the root word is from to despair. See, he had despaired of, what was going to happen to him. If he had not despaired, he would have been like Adam and Eve, and he would have asked for forgiveness and would have known that a better future awaits him in the next world. But he despaired at that moment, and he gave in to all his pride. We are on verse number 40 now. Illa ibadaka minhumul mukhlasin. Now even Satan knows that I will misguide them all except for the chosen ones among your devotees. That means the chosen ones, the ones that you have chosen or the ones who have chosen you, I will not be able to harm in any way. Now, some commentators have, given some ideas about what are the different ways in which Shaitan misguides people. One way is to make people's deeds seem attractive to them. That is, if they're doing something wrong and somebody tells them, this is something wrong, they say, no, what's wrong with it? I'm enjoying it, and so on. And then another way that he whispers to them. How does he whisper to them? Some idea comes to your mind and you think it's your own idea, but maybe it's Shaitan who's whispering in your ear. And then another way is by commanding indecency, like vulgarity, or deranging human beings with his touch. That is, they lose their mental balance or lose their sense of what is right or wrong. Or he can misguide people by his voice. I don't know how exactly, because one cannot hear his voice. Maybe it comes in the form of somebody else talking to us, and that's how we get misguided. Then he can also make them slip. This is the word, the slip. The word, this concept has been used in connection with Hazrat Adam and Hawa when they were told not to eat from this tree, eat the fruit of this tree, and they still did. And the Quran says, فَأَزَّلَّهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ. That means the shaitan made them slip. So he can make them slip. Now, a slip is something that is not accountable. Slip is something that one does not do voluntarily. If you're going somewhere on the road and there's maybe a banana skin lying there and you don't notice it, you step on it and then you slip. Now that is something which is not a voluntary kind of evil deed. It's something that you have not foreseen. So a slip is, since prophets are supposed to be innocent, they do not commit any sins voluntarily, knowingly, intentionally. Therefore, Hazrat Adam has been excused by saying, the Quran excuses Hazrat Adam and says, in fact, both of them, maybe Hawa and Adam, that they were made to slip. Now, I'd like to sort of mention that the Quran does not blame Adam's wife, Eve, or maybe Hawa, of having tempted her husband. But this is what the Christian theology, and you find in the Christian theology, that it was Eve who was first tempted by Satan, and then she tempted her husband, and she was the cause of his fall from heaven. And this is the reason why she is given a lot of punishment of different sorts, especially in childbearing in this world. Yes, I just said this is not the Islamic view. This is this is to be found in Christian theology. Then also we were talking about how Satan misguides people. He can also do this by sowing fear in the mind of a person. What kind of fear? For example, if somebody comes to us for help and we say, if we help him, then we'll be left with less money, and we might go through some kind of a suffering or something. We might suffer. So all kinds of wrong fears are created in our minds. Also making false promises, like by doing something wrong. Like people all over the world these days are taking bribes, huge bribes, and Satan has made this thing look attractive to them, and Satan makes false promises that by doing this, you'll be able to live a comfortable life or a luxurious life, and your children will also be very prosperous. But they do not know that this was going to lead to a bad end. I have references for all these things in the way in which Satan misguides people. From the Quran, I have references, but I thought there's no point in reading them out now. Take a lot of time. But if anyone wants to see them, then I can give it to them. All right. Then also inciting evil and enmity between them, between people. Sometimes you find that for some little, minor thing, people become enemies, like the children are quarreling. It has happened. The children might quarrel, and then the parents come and fight for the children instead of, making them friends again. They fight for the children, and that develops into a big kind of a sort of a war sometimes. And also by enmity through wine and gambling. This is also mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, that these things, when in Surah Al-Ma'idah, these things, verse number 90, these things are being banned, then it is said that this creates enmity between people. And also another way of misguiding is by making people forget God. Of course, this happens all the time. Then another way is by making them alter the revelation. This has also happened all the time, except for the Quran, for which God said that I am responsible. I have revealed this Quran, I'm responsible for preserving it, protecting it and preserving it. And since this is the last revelation, therefore it has been totally preserved, because there is no need for another revelation to come after this, after the last prophet. So we know for sure that sometimes the revelation might be altered by a mistake. Maybe it wasn't written down properly, and then people tried to gather it together, and they made some mistakes. But sometimes it is done purposely. For example, we know that the Jews of Medina had a description of the last prophet to come in their books, in their Torah. But when they saw this prophet, the last prophet, and when he claimed prophethood, then they did not want to accept him because he was not one of them. Since so many prophets had come in their nation, they thought that the last prophet mentioned in the book would also be from among them. And since he was not from among them, therefore they refused to believe in him and they changed their books. They changed the books, but some Jews were honest and some of them even accepted Islam. Like I think his name was Abdullah bin Salam. He was a scholar, Jewish scholar, and he knew what all was there in his books, in the book of the Jews. He said that when we saw the last prophet, we recognized him the way we recognize our sons, because such great detail was given about the last prophet. Then another way by which Iblis misguides people is by creating bitter feelings among them. And I think we'll go on and then we'll come to this. In verse number 41, it is said, قَالَ هَذَا صِرَاطٌ عَلَيَّ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. These are the words of God. He said, this is the straight path which comes towards me. So what is the straight path? The straight path is the path of obedience to God. And by being steadfast on this path, one can avoid the evil plans of Satan. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultanun illa man ittaba'aka minal ghawin. Indeed, you will have no power over my devotees except for those who follow you from among the misguided. Now, since Satan had said, I'm going to misguide all of them, but he also said, except for the chosen ones among your devotees, here God is saying, indeed, you will have no power over my devotees except for those who follow you from among the misguided. Now, according to a hadith, Shaitan said to God, by your honor and majesty, he has all, these extreme feelings of respect for God, and yet he's defying him. By your honor and majesty, as long as their spirits are in their bodies, I will keep misguiding them. Human beings, that is. And God replied, I also swear by my honor and majesty, as long as they keep asking for forgiveness, I will keep forgiving them. So what is the key to a successful life, especially in the hereafter? And that is to keep asking for forgiveness, which is what our forefather, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, had done. In fact, our parents, Adam and Hawa, they had asked for forgiveness, and this is why they will be successful. وَإِنَّ جَهَنَّمَ لَمَوْعِدُهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Hell is the promised place for them all. Now, these are the words of God, that those who will follow Satan and will become misguided, for them the last place for rest will be the place of hell. Inna jahannama lamoiduhum ajmain. That is, hell is the promised place for them all. Laha sabatu abwabin likulli babin minhum juz'un maqsum. Hell is it has 7 gates, each gate having a portion assigned to them. So it is said that hell, just as heaven has 7 stages or stations which go up, hell has 7 gates, and each gate is leading to a certain section of hell. And according to, these are like the degrees of hell. And according to the sins committed, people will be entering these different sections of hell. And according to Muhammad Asad, there are 7 or many ways of sinning and being unrepentant. And this is why they will have, like according to the degree of the sin, people will be sent to their degrees in hell. In case you're interested in knowing the names of these stations of hell, the degrees, they are 7. And as one goes deeper, the punishment will become more severe. In the stations of heaven, as you go higher, the higher the spiritual rank of the person who goes to the higher station, but these stations will go low. So the first one is Jahannam, second is Lazza, Al-Khutama, As-Sa'ir, As-Saqar, Al-Jahim, Al-Khabiya. And then each gate will lead to the relevant station according to the sins. We're on verse number 45 now. Innal muttaqina fi jannatin wa uyun. The pious will enter the gardens with the springs. So this is a description of Jannah. Jannah has also been described as a garden. And we all know that we like nothing better than to be out in a garden, because gardens have all the things which have been created in nature, and it doesn't doesn't have any of the things created by the human mind. And when you want some peace, you like to go to a place in which you find that most of these things are from nature. You don't want to go to the busiest market in town in order to get peace. You want to go to some natural scenery, or which reminds you also of paradise. So the pious will enter the gardens with the springs. There will be flowing water. Flowing water is also supposed to bring a lot of peace to a person's mind. So there will be springs or rivers of water, wine, milk and honey in paradise. And this is also stated by Allama Qurtubi. Udkhuluha bisalamin aminin. Enter them with peace and tranquility, they will be told. So there will be a lot of serenity and peace in Jannah. And peace, we have salam, the word salam, which we also used as a greeting by the Muslim. We have already discussed this, I think, many times, that it does not just mean peace, but it means a wellness of every kind. Everything is well. Wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, environmental wellness, social wellness, just anything economic wellness, all the things that you can think of which you would like to be well for you, all that comes under salam. That all these things are perfect. There's no problem for you in these things. This will be said to the pious. This sentence, enter them with peace and tranquility, will be said to the pious. Some people think will be said by God, and others think that it will be said by the angels. And of course, paradise or heaven will be the abode of peace. وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِمْ مِنْ غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. We will remove the rancor in their hearts and will seat them opposite each other on couches like brothers. So God is saying that any bitter feelings that people might have, sometimes it happens that there are two good people, but they cannot get along. It even happens in a couple that, the man and the woman are good people, but somehow they can't get along for whatever reason. And then some kind of a bitter feeling is created between them, and kind of an enmity and hatred in this earthly life. So this is rancor, to have a permanent bitter feeling about somebody, to have a feeling of enmity about somebody. And here God says, if they are both good people, then we will remove the rancor in their hearts and we'll seat them opposite each other on couches like brothers. Now, there's a quote by Hazrat Ali Karamallah Wajh, and he said, I have hopes that Usman, Talha and Zubair and I will be of these people who have some kind of a bitterness about each other, but in the afterworld, in heaven, we will be all sitting like brothers and enjoying each other's company. Now, as far as I can remember, these are the people with whom Hazrat Ali had differences, especially in the matter of the Jang-e-Jamal, the war which is known as the battle which is known as the Jang-e-Jamal. They were on opposite sides. And we will remove the rancor in their hearts and we will seat them opposite each other on couches like brothers. Muhammad calls them thrones of happiness, these couches. And Allama Razi says that souls will be in a pure state and they will become illumined by the divine light of the other world and will reflect their light to other purified souls. That means everyone will become so pure. In fact, it is said that before one can enter paradise, God is going to purify everyone. If there are some mistakes that have been committed by the good people, they will either be forgiven if they're not bad enough, those mistakes. But if they are serious, then maybe they will spend some time in hell and be purified, and then they will be made to enter heaven. So they will be in a pure state. All those in heaven will be in a pure state, and they will be illumined by the divine lights of the other world. And also they will reflect their lights to each other. They will be sharing that light with other people of the same kind. La yamassuhum fiha nasabum wa mahum minha bimukhrajin. No sorrow will touch them, nor will they be asked to leave. So this is a good description of heaven, that there will, besides there being peace and wellness of every kind, also there will be no sorrow. And there will be no insecurity, because, if one is in this world, if you're living in a rented house, you can be asked to leave any time. Or we also know that we are living in this world, but we can be asked to leave this world at any time through our death. But in heaven, no one will ever be asked to leave. Here it says, nor will they be asked to leave. So they will be there eternally in a state of perfection and without deficiency or deprivation. No deprivation, because it is said that they will be given everything that we want to give them, as plus they will be given everything that they ask for. So if you can have everything that you wish and everything you desire and everything you ask for, then there is no deprivation. So this is a statement by Allama Razi. Nabbi ibadi anni anal ghafurur rahim. Inform my devotees about me that I am the most forgiving, the ever merciful. Now this is supposed to be, according to some commentators, to bring hope and comfort to the sinful believers. They do believe, but they say, no, it is so too difficult for us to do this or to do that, and therefore they are committing sins. But God says that I am the most forgiving, the ever merciful. Anal Ghafur. Ghafur is the most forgiving and Rahim is the ever merciful. Rahman is the most merciful and Rahim is ever merciful. So he is merciful in every way. وَأَنَّ عَذَابِي هُوَ الْعَذَابُ الْأَلِيمُ. And that my punishment is a painful punishment. That means if somebody does not ask for forgiveness, then I can also be very severe in my punishment, because God is just. If this punishment comes according to the sin or crime committed. So God establishes justice in the next world on the day of judgment. So he's just and severe towards the sinful and morally corrupt, that is the disbelievers. But there is also the Hadith Qudsi, which creates some kind of hope in our minds. And it says, I'm trying to remember the Arabic words, Rahmati sabaqat ghadabi. That is, my mercy precedes my wrath. That is, my mercy overcomes everything. It goes before everything, before the negative things like my wrath. So this is like the essential aspects of divine nature, that God is merciful. We have discussed this hadith in detail in the beginning when we were talking about Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the two names of God. And God says that my mercy is prevalent, over everything else, over my wrath. I think we can keep it up to here, because the next verse is sort of changing the topic. It's about Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. Also, we have used up our time. If there are any questions, we can take them now. What is the number of the last verse? Number is 50. Surah Al-Hijr, verse number 50. We have just completed. All right, if there's no question, then maybe we can say our prayer. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar wa adkhilna al jannata ma'al abrar ya azizu ya ghaffar ya rabbil alamin bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Ameen summa ameen. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Walal akhiratu khairul laka minal ula. And may your every tomorrow be better than every today. Ameen summa ameen.